All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. Do I have the right notes up? I do, finally. For the 24th day of June, 2020. Oh, my goodness. I have a couple of different notes that I use, and just depending on what I'm doing, and I had the wrong one up. It's like it was for the 1st and not for the 24th. It's like, no, not that one. Then you have to go and try to find it. Anyway, I just did the esoteric influences for today, and let's see. I'm not going to go over what I went over on that, but I do want to mention the sixth energy for today. Being a sixth energy, we're talking higher self-influence, so just allow that to happen today. Get your ego out of the way and step back and try to see things from a broader perspective, to try to understand the totality of a situation before stepping into the fray, mainly because we've got an issue, an aspect between the moon. I want to tell you about that. The moon's in Leo, but the moon is in conjunct Pluto and square Mars, and so you're going to have to exercise patience today. And avoid overreach and stretching yourself too far in all directions. So Wednesday is a Mercury day, and with Mercury in retrograde, we've got a loosening of all that communication stuff today, so there could be miscommunications. So just be aware, have some extra patience, and the day should go all right for you. So let's shuffle just a little bit more. We had a really hot day yesterday. It's not going to be quite as hot today, but it's still going to be probably in the 90s. It was 95 though yesterday, and that's just too hot. I don't go out in it. The sun is really intense where we live. We're at 3,000 feet above sea level, and so part of it's that, but something's just different with the intensity of the sun, and it's been so. Now it could be the chemtrails that the whatever that it is, the aluminum, or well, I've heard different things, aluminum, barium, I don't know, whatever it is that they're using up there when they're painting our skies with strange looking clouds, those lines up there, they're spraying us, and maybe the sun is having to reflect through all of that, and so it's changing the color of it. The sun seems whiter than it used to be, and it's extraordinarily intense, beginning about 1 o'clock, maybe noon, and lasting till maybe 5 o'clock. Sometimes it's too intense. If it's too hot out there, we can't be out in it. And this has been going on for maybe, I don't know. This might be the 3rd year of it where we've noticed, or maybe it's the 4th year of it, but it's getting progressively worse. So I don't know if you guys are noticing that where you live, but we live out in the middle of nowhere, kind of, and so there's not a lot of big city influence, in terms of pollution and all of that to influence as well. That we don't have a lot of clouds all the time. A lot of the time during the summer, it's just all blue skies, and so the sun doesn't have any impediment unless it's getting amplified by whatever the chemicals they're using in the chemtrails. I don't know. But it's weird. If any of you have any thoughts on that, stick them in the comments. I'd just be interested to hear what other people have experienced or if they've noticed it. But my husband, he said something to me. It's a couple of years back. He's like, have you noticed the sun is different? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, something isn't right. He also said he thinks it's in a different position than it was. I mean, significantly so. It seems like it's lower in the sky instead of higher in the sky. So when it's noon, it should be in a certain spot. It's not. It's lower. So what's that? Is it an illusion? I don't know. Maybe, but I've noticed the same. So anyway, that's enough of that. Let me go back here and get my rune notes up there just in case I need them. But in any event, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. If this is your first time here, I chat a little bit while I shuffle, just so that I get a good enough, shuffle with the deck. Anyhow, if this is your first time here, welcome. And I'm going to take the first 3 cards. I'm going to do the 13th card each time for randomness sake. If we need more, we'll take them. But we'll first look at those first 3 and just see. We might not need more than that. And then if we don't, then we'll go ahead and we'll take a rune out of the rune bag and from the Elder Futh Arc, and we'll close out with the geomancy rune. Oh, the other thing about the geomancy, I'm gonna do another foundations and magic thing. I've been threatening to do this on the rune on the geomancy runes. There is a and I'll probably link to it. There's a building a geomancy shield chart on the blog, and I'll link to that. When I do all of this, so that you can have a link to that as well. Whenever I do the geomancy, I usually try to link to that in the body of every post, so that I don't have to spend a whole lot of time explaining how to build it, but you have to know how to do it. And there's a couple of different ways you can. And so I'm going to talk about that in another foundations and magic video. So anyway, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards and see what they have to say. Well, we start out with the Page of Pentacles. Pentacles is the earth element, our physical security, material security, the earth element. Safety, protection, something new on the horizon, Pages are about undeveloped potential. In a way, you know, they liken to the, they're like the Fool. They're also like the Ace. In terms of something new and undeveloped potential, they can mean a pregnancy, a birth. Depends on what they're paired with, really. But generally speaking, if it was, say, the Page of Swords, then it would definitely be a message, a new message. But with the Page of Pentacles, it could just simply be something new on the material security front. So maybe something could come out about the virus. We're starting to see some kinds of things come out. What did I read? Oh, yeah, Israel. Was it from Ben Gurion University? This is big. There's a way to blow into this tube thing, and the droplets, they test the frequency of it, and they can test COVID that way. And I don't know if one thing can be used for multiple people, or if it's going to have to be, because they're like wanting to put it up like in certain places in the airport, so people can just blow into it and see if they have the virus. So I would assume that there's a way to sterilize it between use, but otherwise they're going to have one for every person. But that's pretty amazing if something like that comes out, less invasive than the nasal swab, since we seem to be so challenged, you know, with a president that goes to visit the swab factory and doesn't wear a mask, and then the whole day's, you know, work has to be thrown out. Yeah. They're not very intelligent there in the federal government, at least not the current administration. They did some business with this new company for test tubes, and they ended up being these expandable soda bottles. And I mean, we paid millions for this. Yeah, they're getting taken. There's so much grift going on right now in all of this, it's ridiculous. It's a brand new company, you know, it was one of those things. And yeah, they literally took little tiny collapsible soda bottles that inflate. I don't know what you do to them. You put liquid in them, they inflate up to, like, what is it? Did it say 2 liter size or something, or liter size? I didn't even know they had such a thing, but apparently they do, and that's what they decided to sell them in lieu of actual test tubes. Give the Chariot on a Wednesday. We might call it hump day, but it's really the resting point of the 7 experience. You know, you've got the scales, you've got 3 and 3, and then the 4 point, you know, up at the top. That's the point of rest. It's where you let everything settle out, and that's what we're doing here. We're learning when to take control and when to allow. Yeah, I don't know. This may have to do with... Let's see if we get a different, like something that's going to indicate a different path. King of Swords. Okay, we might need a 3rd card. We'll see, though. All right. We're going to keep the chariot in the center. I'm going to switch the king with the page. Let's talk about the chariot. We see the king back from somewhere. We don't really know where. Maybe he's just coming out and talking to people. But he's chosen to, it must be something formal because he's in his special chariot, his kingly chariot. You see the winged caduceus, or not the winged caduceus, the winged sun rather, on top of the shield with the dreidel on it. Everything's in balance. Balance between dark and light, or polarity. The polarity within, masculine and feminine. The dark sphinx, the dark lion, would be the feminine side, and the white lion or sphinx would be the masculine side. And not in terms of gender, but in terms of magnetic effect. You have the pull energy of the feminine, and you have the push energy of the masculine. And so it repels, in a sense, the masculine does, in a way, and because it pushes away, whereas the receptive draws in. It's the magnetic resonance of Earth and that connection between soul and that resonance that basically constitutes our infusion into form, or incarnation into form. Without the soul doing all of this, the bodies would have no reason to exist. So that's how immaterial the bodies are. We see the triple aspects implied on his shoulders there and around his neck. You see the two slivers of the moon on each shoulder, one on each shoulder, and then you see his collar, sort of implies the mother aspect of the goddess, maiden, mother, and crone. The chariot's about momentum. It's about progress, but it's also about learning to know when to take control and when to allow, to drop resistance. On this Wednesday, the idea is to drop resistance. It's similar to the process an empath goes through when you bring yourself back from reality, essentially what's going on energetically around you, and you pull yourself, all of your energy, back to your still point, and you release all connections that you've made with everything else that you've paid attention to. Once you do that, an energetic connection's created. You do have to dissolve them or cut them. I don't like the visual of cutting, so I like the idea of dissolving my attention to something. Bringing everything back to your still point. Well, what you're doing is you're stepping away from the fray and you're letting everything settle out, and you're seeing what's what. And that's kind of what we're doing here with the chariot when we're deciding when to take control and when to allow. Again, how we take control today is important, given the issues with the moon and it being in Leo. This could be just a difficult time when you might want to take too much control, and that's not necessarily appropriate. Now, when we talk about taking control and versus allowing, let's talk about the king. This king does not look you in the eye. You see the sketchy brown clouds, and they're quite dark behind him. There's no light coming in, so there's deception with this king. The sword is not straight up and down. It's askew, hoping you don't notice what he's doing behind the scenes. On his own, if left on his own, he's going to make the wrong choice. He always does. So swords is the air element. Again, we're talking deception with this guy. And he has not learned the lessons here of the chariot. That in order to heal, in order to express healing to others, in order to foster healing collectively, you have to be healed within. Spirit's got to inform, the soul has got to be in the driver's seat, in other words, instead of the ego always reacting to everything and wanting, what's mine, right? It's the ability to think beyond yourself to the greater good. It's the ability to express tiwas in your life, or the spiritual warrior within. knowing when to take action and when to just sit back and watch and let things unfold the way they do. Sometimes, it might look dicey in the beginning, but then it works itself out. So rather than inserting yourself into that process, maybe let it unfold naturally to its final conclusion, on its own, and watch the process, learn from it. See that you don't necessarily have to insert yourself into every little thing in the world. You can just sit back and watch, and that's okay. The world doesn't come apart because you didn't involve yourself, in other words. So you can have deception for the past, well, and also the present, because there's a lot of that going on right now and has been for, the last 3+ years. But here you have the Page of Pentacles, again, earth element, looking toward the future. You see the brilliant yellow light behind him. We know the sun is there, but we just don't see it. We just trust that the light is there, the light is returned. And our way forward, our shared path forward together in terms of our security is illumined. We know where we're going. He's even holding it high in supplication, isn't he? To the light of spirit, perhaps, informing and preparing and lighting our way forward. Let's do another card. It's like, yeah, so what? Okay. We figured out how to not be deceptive. We figured out how to go forward together. We figured out how to, knowing when to act and when not to. But that and that alone sort of resolves the issue of the King of Swords, doesn't it? The issue of deception. Although, depending upon the individual involved, if it is the King of Swords, it could actually strengthen that whole thing, and it couldn't, because maybe your deception is based on knowing when to act and when not to. So, but we need a new way forward. We need a new route together, a new path together. You look at the page here, there's not a lot on the ground there, is there? You see some trees, you see a little bit starting to grow, you see some flowers starting to emerge. You see the mountain over there. It looks like there's some kind of a maybe ravine there just below the mountain, or some kind of place that makes it more difficult to get to the mountain, maybe. Or maybe you just have to take a different path. But the point is that nothing's there yet. See? So essentially the future's ours to write any way we want to. So we can keep it in the form of deception, or we can move forward confidently. This yellow vital energy of the sun suggests confidence. Well, it's just, a court card nightmare today. The Knight of Cups. Again, extending his hand out and offering. Cups is the water element. It's emotions. It's empathy. It's intuition. But it's also a shared experience. It's reciprocity with other people. It's compassion. It's generosity. You see the white steed. White denotes purity. He's got a golden mane. The knight's visor is up. And again, you see the same winged sun on his head, on his helmet that you see here on the chariot. So his perspective is in balance. He offers healing. As his steed prepares to step over or through the little emotional creek that's running below him. He's basically in charge of all of that, as opposed to reacting to all of that, to the emotions within. I think that, again, we need this could be essentially a card of healing. I don't know that we need a fourth card or a fifth card. I think that this is mostly a card of healing, and I think that it's reflecting the Page of Pentacles. I think it's basically reinforcing that we are taking a new healing path together as a basis. In other words, instead of being at odds with one another, instead of arguing with one another, instead of trying to harm one another, there's a lot of that going on, whether it's the police issues that are going on or whether it's just the issues between one another. We can't seem to get on the same page vis-a-vis the virus and how to deal with that. I think we're going to find, unfortunately, as more people get sick, because they're going to, the rallies alone that this guy's having are going to be a hotbed for this. All we got to do is wait a week, and you're going to start to see symptoms crop up. We have a church in Eastern Oregon in La Grande. I think it's in La Grande. 236 people are sick now. They ignored Governor Brown's stay-at-home order. They decided not to pay any attention to that, and they went in anyway, and now look how many people are sick. So we don't have the bed space over there for this, and because who knows how many are going to end up in the hospital. We're not ready for this. We never have been. And because we never got it together in the beginning and the states were left to fend for themselves, it's sketchy, as to who's ready for what. And as the more rural areas, the smaller areas become the more, farming type, where you got a lot of farmland or ranches or what have you. These little smaller towns usually have, land around them where people are doing that. Unless, it's just, it is here in Oregon anyway. So as more of these smaller areas, the virus, because everybody moves around in Oregon, we all go places, we all travel about the state, especially during the summertime. But as we do that, asymptomatic carriers are going to be spreading the virus as they do. So how this happened clear over in Eastern Oregon, I don't know. Obviously, somebody came through with it and left its mark and got people sick. And then from there, we know how it spreads. So I think that if we're going to have a shared path forward, we have to heal the differences within that's happening with the Knight of Cups and make an offering of peace and love and harmony and compassion to one another so that we're all making the same decision here to stay safe from this virus. In turn, that collective agreement can then spill over into what's going on with the Black Lives Matter protests. And this shift toward a better understanding of what policing ought to be instead of what it currently is. And so, again, I think that it all just sort of dovetails nicely together if we all would just do that and get on the same path forward. Let's go ahead and look at a rune, though. I'm going to take one out of the Rowan bag now that I have my Rowan runes finally done. We did that this weekend, and they're a little darker, but I think you can still see the rune itself. We'll see. If not, we'll switch over. Oh, well, this is easy. This is Kenaz. Well, we'll do it the other way. There's Kenaz. Again, the light of spirit, the torch. Catalytic energy. The voice of spirit. Well, that's more Ansu's, but the light of spirit, we'll say. And I think that it needs to inform the king, who still can't get it together and be honest about anything. Oh, yeah, we've beaten it all in Arizona. No, Arizona is spiking up, just huge. But basically what the light of spirit, or what Kenaz is doing, is it's informing all of this. It brings clarity, it illuminates, it brings truth, something that we are, unfortunately sorely lacking right now in this country. I think I said this the other day, there was an interview, this guy got interviewed by a reporter, probably at, I don't know, some kind of rally. Maybe it was one of the rallies, I don't know. Or at some other event, maybe it was a protest and this was a counter protester or something, I don't know. But he's had people in his family get it. One was on a ventilator, but yet, he doesn't know what the truth is. So he's not going to wear a mask. He's not going to distance. He's not going to take any of this seriously because he just doesn't think it's that big of a deal. It's just like the flu. No, no, it isn't. So I don't know. I don't know how we Kenaz our way through this. You know, I don't know how we just keep talking, I guess, and maybe somebody will say something that will spark something within someone else, and it will help them to understand the truth of this. Unfortunately, it could simply take, and I guess for this guy that was interviewed, it didn't even take that. I don't know what it's going to take for him, but a relative being on a ventilator wasn't enough. I mean, are they still on a ventilator? Are they surviving? Maybe when they've survived, they can tell this guy and say, hey, no, you're wrong. This is really bad. You know, I nearly died. You know, it's just, what will it take? And I really think it's those kinds of extreme things that may be necessary for some people to wake up, and there may be those who never do. At least if we can get the bulk of the country on the same page, what is it, like 80% of us, they say, if we would 80% would wear a mask when we're out. You're starting to see some cities require it, that if you're going to be out and about, you'll have a mask on or else. And I don't know what they're doing as far as the or else goes, but, you know, this is what we've got to do. Well, let me see here which this one is. I think it's a Missio, though. I don't think it's, or is it Rubius? Well, let me see here. I'll do it this way. I don't know where my paper is. Oh, I know where it is. It's because I'm working on the video thing. I'm getting everything prepared for the video. So I've got it all, I have it all stacked up in one thing, and I don't know what I've done with it. I thought it was right here. Some of it is, but some of it's not here. It must be out in the living room. I was working on it out there last night. Let's see. Let me look for Rubius here, because I think that's what this is. Yeah. Okay. I always like to be sure. When you're looking at something that's made up of dots like this, it's just, you know, that's actually not the right one, but it doesn't matter. What we have here is Rubius. Rubius is an evil influence. It's lack of impulse control on steroids, on the adult version of it. And so this is the geomancy rune for today. Now, that could have something to do with, what was that, Mars, was it, or not Mars? Yeah, Moon square Mars. Yeah. The moon's in Leo and it's in square with Mars. So I think that that's what Rubius is talking about. You want to be careful with the overreach aspect today. You don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to get hostile. You don't want to get into it with anybody. Again, we have to offer healing and reciprocity. We need a new shared path forward. We can't do that if we express Rubius in our lives. So just be really careful today to not allow any of that energy to bubble up. I think it's really just reflecting the moon in Leo square Mars. It's also in conjunct Pluto. I think that knowing when to react and when to not react is really the key here today. Let the light of spirit inform all of that, and then you'll know when it's best to open your mouth and insert yourself into a situation, when it's just best to just sit back and watch and see what happens. So I would say that for the most part, that's probably what we need to do today, is just sit back and see what unfolds. And if it really does become necessary, just be careful not to overdo it when you do insert yourself into whatever's happening. So in any event, I guess that's it. I think that's all I have here today. We're doing pretty good on time. We're at about 30 minutes, so that's good. Again, check out the Esoteric Influences if you haven't already. It does go up on the left side panel of the blog, and underneath it, Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune also appears there. I'm not doing it again in the body of the blog anymore. I'm putting it over on the side panel. So I guess it makes it less cluttery that way, I guess. I don't know. Some different things are happening with the affiliates. Check all that out. I've let some of that go. I wanted to just focus maybe on a few things and not so much on and being so spread out. Again, not spreading myself too thin. So there's going to be some changes on that front going forward. I'm not exactly sure yet what that's all going to look like, but I think I'm just going to switch to a less I don't know, direct approach to it. I think I'm going to take a more passive approach to it. And so we'll see. It was something that I tried, and I'm just not sure how involved I want to really be with it. So I guess that's so look for those kind of changes as well on the blog. Let's see. I guess that's it. I've not done anything yet on Medium this week. I will do something, though. I just haven't figured out what that is. So check for that. Wait for that. I'll say something about it, too, when I post it and what that is, what the title of it is and all. So, but I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess that's it. So, again, take care of yourself today and be safe when you go out. Wear a mask always for the foreseeable future. And let's chat again tomorrow. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.